Would it surprise you to find out not a single Democrat in the Florida House voted for HJR 203? It passed 80-30 on a complete party line vote. Shocks me. But with that being said, I always want to understand, are we playing politics or are there real objections to this particular bill? So I want to go through the main primary objections, and I'm going to do some additional videos where we dive in one after the other, talking specifically about some of these issues. So number one objection, it defunds public safety. So opponents argue that this bill guts local government budgets. They say that over 100 municipalities wouldn't even generate enough revenue to cover current public safety spending. So they're talking about police, firefighter, first responders. And while the bill claims it protects funding, critics say it locks departments into today's budgets, meaning no raises, no new equipment, no growth as communities expand. Okay, so we'll dive into that a little further. It's not a tax cut, it's a tax shift. This is the number two argument. The Democrats who are objecting to the bill were saying that it shifts the burden of tax. If homestead owners pay less, someone else pays more. Renters, small businesses, non-homesteaded property owners. The cost of government doesn't appear; it just changes. And there's certainly some considerations of how that would be true in how this ultimately plays out. Number three, it pushes Florida towards higher fees and sales taxes because the bill doesn't clearly replace billions in lost revenue. Opponents warn local governments will turn to higher sales taxes, new service fees, privatized costs. Critics say Florida risks becoming a fee state where everything costs more out of pocket. It ignores the real problem. This is number four. Some lawmakers argue this misses the actual affordability crisis of property insurance. They say insurance, not property taxes, it's what's crushing Florida families. So instead of cutting taxes, reform insurance. That's just two separate issues, part of the same issue we're trying to solve for. I think we should handle both of those issues. Number five, it weakens local control. So property taxes are the main independent funding source for cities and counties. Remove that and local governments become dependent on the state. Opponents call that the end of the home rule. They argue that cities would become financially dependent on Tallahassee. And some of these are things I'm not familiar with the full function and flow. So we're going to spend some time diving into some of these budgets in terms of where the money actually comes from. It could inflate land prices. So another warning, lower carrying costs make land more attractive to large investors. Critics argue that it could make it easier for major corporations to buy up housing, driving prices higher. There's already legislation and going in the federal level to hopefully prevent some of this large corporate investor moving into the state, but we'll see. No clear implementation plan. And finally, this is the final argument. Democrats argue that no detailed roadmap for how this works long term. No clear replacement revenue, no detailed transition plan. They say it feels good politically, but the consequences could be severe. I think this is the constant straw man argument that it's shooting issues before you actually get to discuss them. These should be debated. These is going to have to go through appropriations. It's going to have to be campaigned for and ultimately be voted on by citizens. So we get a vote. So it's important that we're doing this and that we're informing ourselves on how this will actually play out. So the no vote wasn't about defending high taxes. It was about the questions. If you remove billions from local government, what happens next and who pays the difference? So stay with me. We're going to dive into these one by one and get down to the facts of the matter. Is this good policy? I think every one of us who are homesteaded citizens of the state of Florida, gut reaction and gut instinct is, man, we've got to move the needle on this. But we do need to see the clear path. So that objection is one that we just need to understand. But let's dive through this one by one and make sure we are tackling these issues.